So I always tell you guys, follow the money. And this is a perfect example of it as we talk about AI in education. Check this out. Tech giants are racing to embed AI in schools around the globe. And I've told you guys about this stuff before. It's happening. Say Elon Musk, Sam Altman, whatever company, they buy off Donald Trump, and then say the USA in this example will say, hey kids, every kid's got to subscribe to, whatever AI chatbot. And that is billions, if not trillions of dollars that we're talking about here. Because just imagine if every school's like, okay, great, we're going to enroll all of our kids in AI chatbot. Already Elon Musk got a contract with the Department of Defense. So that means basically, hey, every soldier is going to get Elon Musk chatbot. That's a lot of money. I think you guys know this. And I want to go through the ramifications of stuff and what this says. So let's jump right in. It says in early November, Microsoft would supply artificial intelligence tools and training to more than 200,000 students and educators in the UAE. It's a lot, 200,000 students and educators. That's Microsoft. And it's not just this chatbot stuff. Microsoft can license Windows or Word or whatever in a whole bunch of schools, businesses, etc. It's worth a lot of money. You guys know this stuff. Days later, a financial services company in Kazakhstan announced an agreement with OpenAI to provide ChatGPT EDU, a service for schools and universities for 165,000 educators in Kazakhstan, right? All these big government contracts. Last month, XAI, Elon Musk's artificial intelligence company, announced an even bigger project with El Salvador, developing an AI tutoring system using the company's Grok chatbot for more than 1 million students in thousands of school sites there. And the tech bros, they are salivating. They want to replace teachers as fast as they can. And so then they can get all the students enrolled into their AI classes, buying their AI chatbots, et cetera. Like, this is all about money. They're not really, these people like Elon Musk stuff, like they're not really concerned about education. They don't care. They just want to make money. And I hope you guys understand the fundamental problem with replacing teachers and human beings with robots effectively. Fueled partly by American tech companies, governments around the globe are racing to deploy generative AI systems and training in schools and universities. Some U.S. tech leaders say AI chatbots, which can generate human-like emails, create class quizzes, analyze data, and produce computer code, can be a boon for learning, right? So they're like, guys, our schools are going to get so much better with AI. That's from the tech bro point of view. The tools, they argue, can save teachers time, customize student learning, and help prepare young people for an AI-driven economy. And that's according to Trump. Then whoever pays off Trump is like, hey guys, AI is the future and AI is going to drive our economy, et cetera. But I don't think people are really thinking this through. They're just looking at dollar signs today, not thinking about tomorrow. And that's why I share my thoughts with you guys. With you. If you don't know, I've been in education a really long time. I was a professor for about 10 years. Before that, I worked with Bill Nye, the Science Guy. And then now I do stuff on YouTube and I try my best to educate people because I think these are really important conversations. What else does it say? It says, but the rapid spread of new AI products could also pose risks to young people's development and well-being, some children's health groups warn. And here's the big one, the critical thinking part, right? A recent study from Michigan and Carnegie Mellon University found, recent study from Microsoft and Carnegie Mellon University found that popular AI chatbots may diminish critical thinking. AI bots can produce authoritative sounding errors and misinformation, and some teachers are grappling with widespread AI-assisted student cheating. And I've heard that is a big, big problem at universities and high schools. I don't know about if it's reached elementary to where basically kids are having AI do their homework. Here's the thing. So when I teach, and oftentimes the people like the Elon Musk who attack education have no idea like how this stuff works. But I'll tell you the truth, when I teach, I don't expect students to like just memorize everything. That's not really my goal. My goal is to get students to think critically. That is key. And I want to put it in the most simplest terms. Okay, let's say, for example, we decide, you know what? AI is awesome. And we don't need to have students learn anything. They're just going to, use the AI to do that. And use the example of the calculator, okay? So when I was a kid, you had to learn the times tables, right? Learn how to do just basic math. And that would be before you could get a calculator. Now, you could make the case, you could say, but Chris, calculators are everywhere. We should give calculators to kids right away because that's what they're going to use when they're adults. But I just want you to play that out. So what if someone then never learns their timetables, never learns to do algebra, geometry, whatever, right? I know most people are going to get the calculus, but I'm saying whatever. just think what that does to your mind. Think about this, because you could make the case that kids don't need to learn handwriting. You could make that case. And I've heard some people say that even kids today just can't write because, we do everything on computers. So I guess we don't need to write, right? Is that the argument that you would make? And I completely disagree. I completely disagree. And everyone's going to be different, but in my opinion, there's something really fundamental and important about learning the absolute basics so that you can understand like how and why this like stuff works. I don't know what else to say. Like, I want to hear pushback. I mean, is there anyone who's like, nah, you don't need times tables. You don't need handwriting. You don't need thinking. Is there people going to say that? And maybe there is, because if you watch YouTube, like, it's filled with a bunch of AI slop. It's filled with all these people telling you, oh, guys, AI is going to make you rich. It's so awesome, powerful. It's the golden, key to everything. And basically, it's sort of like this fantastical tool for, I'll just be frank with you guys, like lazy people or people down on luck, however you want to say it, that don't want to put in the work to learn. It's basically for that. And it makes me sad. Like, yes, I get it, guys. I'm not stupid. I always have to say that because, like, the progress of technology, we're probably going to have chatbots in the future that are going to be assistants. Sure, I get that. Like, if Siri actually worked pretty good, I'd probably ask it more questions. I have it on my phone. It's not that great. You ask it the time, you ask it the weather. That's about it. But the thing is, I still don't want it to replace my thinking. And if you give this stuff to kids too early, and I use the calculator, I think it's a really good example. They're never going to learn it. It's so obvious to me, like, how damaging this is. Here's another one. If we remove people from the equation, okay, just entirely, and you go into the Elon Musk world, because remember, all this is a money-making grift for him, then we lose out on human relationships. And that's why a lot of these tech bros don't know how to associate with people. That's basically what it is, because they spend all their time behind a computer and, doing whatever the Elon Musk does and whatever chemicals, and they don't know how to associate with people. And that's one of the fundamental things that you learn in school, not just critical thinking, but just how to talk to different people. And people lose that art today. And that's why you see so many problems online develop. And then you got the cheating situation. It's so many problems. I'm so against this stuff. Again, I understand that there'll be a role for it, but don't give it to kids too early. Don't make it self-mandatory, which is it's just probably going to be in some places if the tech bros have it their way. Silicon Valley for years has pushed tech tools like laptops and learning apps into classrooms with promises of improved education access and revolutionized learning. Still, a global effort to expand school computer access, a program known as One Laptop Per Child. Now, remember this, I'm not necessarily against that, did not improve students' cognitive skills or academic outcomes. Interesting. According to studies by the professors and economists of hundreds of schools in Peru, now as some tech boosters make similar education access and fairness arguments for AI, agencies like UNICEF are urging caution and calling for more guidance for schools. The one laptop for child is interesting. I know that what it is exactly. It's like this green little laptop, and they had these things designed for developing countries that had, not great access to computers, and it wasn't a terrible idea. It was interesting that they're saying it didn't necessarily help academic improvement or whatever. I'll say that there's something to be said, and everything. It's a complex topic because you're talking about different countries and different economic situations. Like, for example, let's say you don't have access to a lot of books, then I can see, give kid access to the internet can help things greatly, but you got to make sure, and even in that situation, limit it, because kids are just going to just playing games all day. If you don't just say, okay, here's a computer, you can only look at books. And you guys know, anyone who has a kid, you'll know this, like the kids are just going to play games if you don't put limits on this stuff, because they're kids. Quote, with one laptop per child, the fallout includes wasted expenditure and poor learning outcomes. Unguided use of AI systems may actively de-skill students and teachers. Yeah, same stuff that I'm saying. Education systems across the globe are increasingly working with tech companies on AI tools and programs. Okay, what do you got? In the United States, where states and school districts typically decide what to teach, some prominent school systems recently introduced popular chatbots for teaching and learning. In Florida alone, and again, these are all about government contracts, Miami-Dade County Public Schools, nation's third largest school system, rolled out Google's Gemini chatbot for more than 100,000 high school students. And I can't keep track of all this stuff. If you guys are in Florida, let me know. Someone in our community did say that they're a teacher and that they have it at, and it might be Florida because they did mention Gemini in particular. This is worth a lot of money, this stuff. Broward County Public Schools, and this is Microsoft here, the nation's 6th biggest school district, introduced Microsoft Copilot chatbot for thousands of teachers and staff members. So there's certainly a difference between giving it to students and to teachers, but either way, this is tax dollars going to, these big tech companies and for the contracts, right? Outside the United States, Microsoft in June announced a partnership with the Ministry of Education in Thailand to provide free online AI skills for lessons, so get kids hooked on early. And it's interesting because the first thing I thought about was when I was a kid in Oregon, we had, I think it was called the Channel 1 Network, if you guys know what that was. And at the time, it was controversial. So as a kid, I actually didn't know it was controversial, but basically they would make us watch these 10-minute news segments. But, when you watch certain things, there's a lot of product placement with that. So basically you're watching a bunch of ads along with whatever content they want you to see. And so there was pushback on stuff. And I think one of the conditions was like you had to put Coke machines in your school also. There's always money exchanged hands, and then in exchange the school would get a TV. So there's pros and cons to all this stuff. But basically they're trying to get people hooked onto this stuff in Thailand. Several months later, Microsoft said it would also provide AI training for under 50,000 teachers who want people to depend on their technology in Thailand. OpenAI has pledged to make ChatGPT available to teachers in government schools across India. God, this is everywhere. The Baltic nation of Estonia is trying a different approach with broad new national AI education initiative called the AI Leap. And again, I want to hear from people around the world if you've been hearing this in your neck of the woods. This is multiple countries. It's even bigger than I even realized. The program has prompted partly by a recent poll showing that more than 90% of the nation's high schoolers are already using popular chatbots like ChatGPT for schoolwork. I'm not shocked. If it is indeed that high, I don't know if anyone knows for sure, but I'm not shocked that high school kids are using it. But if it is that high, that's pretty crazy, 90%. Leading to worries that some students are beginning to delegate school assignments to AI. Of course, kids are going to do that. You were all a kid once. You know how it is. If you can cheat, make it easy to cheat, pay whatever, $10, whatever. Kids are going to do it. Estonia then pressed U.S. tech giants to adapt their AI to local education needs and priorities. Researchers at the University of Tartu worked with OpenAI to modify company's Estonian language service for schools, so respond to students' queries with questions rather than produce direct answers. Yeah. If kids, okay, here's a good example, okay? Because I teach. If a kid says, for example, hey, how do we get to the moon? Okay. I don't necessarily give them answer directly because I want them to work through the problem. And then in actually fact, there is more than an answer. So I would say, okay, so why do you want to go? How many people do you want to take? Right. And that starts to dictate. And then, if they say, oh, I want to take 3 people, and then I'll pose a question of like, what if you take no people? What if you send robots? Right. Do you guys see what I'm saying? I always have conversations with my students. It's hard to explain unless you've been in the classroom. I don't expect students to memorize. I try to help students think and just think, right, and develop. I think it's such an important thing, and I can see the dangers of like if kids like how many how to get to the moon or whatever, and it just spits out one answer, but you lose out on the conversation and all sorts of possibilities with that. You guys know how this AI stuff works. It gives you kind of an answer, and it could be coming from one particular source, but not looking at all sorts of different angles of it. Introduced this school year, the AI Leap program aims to teach educators and students about the uses, limits, biases, and risks of AI tools. In its pilot phase, teachers in Estonia received training on OpenAI's ChatGPT and Google's Gemini chatbots. It's critical AI literacy, right? This is coming from a chief exec. The AI Leap Forward Foundation of Estonia, quote, it's having a very clear understanding that these tools can be useful, but at the same time, these tools can do a lot of harm. Yeah, absolutely. Estonia recently held a national training day for some students in high schools. Some of those students are now using bots for tasks like generating questions to help prepare for tests. Quote, if these companies would put their effort not only in pushing AI products, but also doing products together with educational systems of the world, then some of these products could be really useful. Now we're talking about Iceland. Like this is a bunch of countries here. This school year, Iceland started its own national AI pilot in schools. Now, several hundred teachers across the country are experimenting with Google's Gemini chatbot and Anthropic's Claude for tasks like lesson planning and aim to find useful, helpful uses of pinpoint drawbacks. University of Iceland will then study how educators use the chatbot. So universities are probably now studying this stuff now because you do want to see this stuff. And I'm telling you guys, you got to look at human relations and development. I think people are going to be able to lose their ability to think. I really do. You already see it today in the social media driven world where kids are more likely to listen to another kid rant off about stuff that the kid barely understands. Whatever, they probably got it from an AI, and then just continue to spread stuff, because then as long as someone dances and says a bunch of bleeps and blurbs and swears, and kids listen to that. I mean, it's kids. It's crazy. Quote: if you are losing less of your brain power or critical thinking or whatever makes us more human, is definitely not what we want. I totally agree there. They're talking about using it for more lessons. And then they said, okay, and then you got another point of view. Miss Arden Detier, a business entrepreneur teacher, recently used Claude to make a career exploration game to help students figure out whether more suited to do jobs in sales, marketing, or management. So they made some sort of game with the chatbot. Quote: I have a fill-in-the-blank word games, matching word games, and speed challenge games. So before they had to take the exam, I feel like they're better prepared. Miss Gillian Tutor added that she was concerned about chatbots producing misinformation. So she vetted the AI-created games and lessons for accuracy before asking her students to try them. And then they're talking about don't overly trust it, etc. Quote, and this talking about the students, I think, they are trusting AI blindly. They may be losing motivation to do the hard work of learning, but we may have to teach them how to learn with AI. Yeah, good luck with that. Lots of institutions are trying AI. Drew Bent, the education at Anthropic, quote: we're at a point where we need to make sure that these things are backed by outcomes and figure out what's working and what's not working. So I just want to give you guys an idea of this particular topic. I knew it was happening in USA. I didn't necessarily know all of these particular countries. And again, this is where you follow the money, and why essentially Trump basically is building this ballroom, because all these tech bros are like, hey, there's all this nice stuff. It's the future. We can't let China beat us, etc. But I'll push back. I mean, I think if you start destroying your kids' critical thinking and be able to use their brain independently from the very beginning, then they won't develop it when they're adults at all. Like the early years, school and formative years are extremely important. And I understand, guys. I understand more than you know. And people, the way that they think about it is like, hey, but Chris, I don't have that much time anymore, and the AI can do my homework in 5 minutes, and I can go back to playing video games, and I really need to have the top score in my my school or whatever in video games. That's what kids are going to be thinking about. Or other kids are like, well, Chris, it's so dumb. Why do I need to learn anything? The AI can do it for me, and everyone else is doing it. I get that, but I think what's going to end up happening is you're going to have a world, and you see it on YouTube where basically, a bunch of, sort of to say it, copycats, I guess you'd say it, or mindless drones. And because you're all using AI, you're all going to look the same and think the same, and you're not going to understand how to differentiate yourself from other people. So that's my thoughts on this. Please be careful out there, and I'll catch you on the next video.